The Volanthi Empire stretched across 40 star systems. Their people were tall and beautiful, with silver skin that glowed softly in the light. They had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years, and they believed themselves to be perfect in every way. Princess Kelith Sirith stood at the edge of her father's throne room. Watching the strange creatures from a planet called Earth, they were small and soft. With odd-colored skin in shades of brown and pink, they had no silver glow. They had no elegance. The Volanthi court whispered and laughed behind their hands. These humans were clearly primitive, barely worthy of notice, but notice them they must. The Galactic Concord had accepted humanity into its ranks, which meant the great empires had to at least pretend to welcome them. Emperor Vorith, Kelith's father, had a special welcome planned. Kelith knew what was coming. She had known for 3 days, ever since her father had summoned her and smiled that cold smile she had learned to fear. "You will marry the human commander," he had said. "It is a great honor." It was not an honor. It was a punishment dressed in silk. Kelith was the third daughter, the forgotten one, the princess with the broken genes. Among the Volanthi, reproduction required perfect genetic compatibility. Special machines would scan to people and calculate their matching score. Anything above 97% meant they could bond and produce children. Anything below meant they could not. Kelith's score with every Volanthi male ever tested was exactly 0. She was barren. Useless. A defect in the perfect bloodline of House Sirith. Her father had tried to hide her away, but whispers traveled fast in royal courts. Everyone knew about the broken princess. Everyone pretended not to see her at formal events. She had learned to make herself small, to fade into corners, to expect nothing. Now her father had found a use for her at last. He would give her to the primitive humans as a diplomatic gift. The message would be clear to everyone watching. "Here's our garbage. She is all your kind deserves." The human delegation approached the throne. Their leader was a man called Commander Marcus Chen. He was not tall by Volanthi standards, but he held himself straight. His skin was a warm brown color, and his eyes were dark and calm. He wore a simple uniform with medals on his chest. Emperor Vorith rose from his throne, spreading his arms wide in false welcome. "Honored guests from Earth," he said, his voice echoing through the great hall. "The Volanthi Empire wishes to cement our new friendship with a gift beyond measure. I offer you my own daughter, Princess Kelith, to be bride to your commander." The court erupted in barely hidden laughter. Nobles covered their mouths with their hands, their shoulders shaking. Some did not even bother to hide their amusement. They all knew what this gift really meant. Kelith kept her face perfectly still. She had practiced this mask for many years. She would not give them the satisfaction of seeing her shame. But then, something unexpected happened. Commander Marcus Chen did not laugh. He did not look confused or insulted. Instead, he studied Kelith with those calm, dark eyes. He seemed to see past her frozen expression, past the silver skin and royal dress, to something underneath. Then he bowed. "Not to the Emperor. To her, I would be honored," he said simply. The laughter died. The court fell silent. This was not the reaction anyone had expected. The human was supposed to be offended or confused. He was supposed to reject the insult or accept it with obvious reluctance. He was not supposed to bow to the broken princess like she was worth something. Emperor. Vorith's smile flickered for just a moment. "Excellent," he said, recovering quickly. "The wedding will take place tomorrow. My daughter will return to Earth with you afterward." The ceremony was brief and cold. No Volanthi of importance attended. Kelith wore a simple dress instead of traditional royal wedding robes. She spoke her vows in a quiet voice, still waiting for the cruelty to reveal itself. Humans were primitive. Surely this Marcus Chen would show his true nature soon enough, but he did not. On the transport ship, leaving Volanthi Prime, Kelith sat alone in her small cabin. She had been given minimal escort and minimal supplies. Her father wanted her gone quickly and quietly, like throwing away something shameful. A knock came at her door. She opened it to find Marcus standing there with a tray of food. "I thought you might be hungry," he said. "The ship's food is not great, but I asked the cook to try something mild. I don't know what Valenthi usually eat. Keleth stared at him. No one had ever brought her food before. Servants brought food, but they did it because they were ordered to, not because they thought she might be hungry. "Why are you being kind to me?" she asked. Marcus tilted his head slightly. "Why wouldn't I be? You know what I am? You know why they gave me to you? I am broken. I am worth nothing. My father used me to insult your entire species." Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then he stepped into the room and set the tray down on a small table. "I saw a woman standing in a room full of people who treated her like she was invisible," he said. "I saw her keep her dignity even when they laughed at her. That's not nothing. That's strength." Keleth did not know what to say. Her throat felt tight in a strange way. "Can I ask you something?" Marcus said. She nodded. "What do you want? Not what your father wants or what the Empire expects. What do you actually want for your life?" The question hit her like a physical blow. No one had ever asked her that before. She had spent so many years learning to want nothing, to expect nothing, to be nothing. She did not know how to answer. "I do not know," she whispered. Marcus smiled gently. "That's okay. We have time to figure it out." He left her alone then, but the tray of food stayed. Keleth ate slowly, tasting each bite. The food was strange, but not unpleasant. As the ship entered Earth's solar system, she felt something odd in her chest. A warmth spreading slowly outward, like sunlight after a long winter. She assumed it was just her body adjusting to the different air on the ship. She was wrong. The warmth had nothing to do with the air. It was something much older and much more powerful. It was hope, returning to a heart that had forgotten what hope felt like. And beneath that hope, deep in her silver-blooded body, something else was beginning to change. Something impossible. Something miraculous. But Keleth did not know that yet. For now, she only knew that a human had bowed to her when her own people had laughed. And somehow that small act of kindness had cracked open a door she had sealed shut long ago. Earth grew larger in the viewport. Keleth watched it approach, this strange blue world that was now her home. She did not know what waited for her there. She did not know that her life was about to change in ways no one could have predicted. She only knew that for the first time in many years. She did not feel completely alone. Earth was nothing like Keleth had expected. She had prepared herself for barbarism. The Valanthi educational systems taught that humans were primitive creatures, barely evolved beyond animals. They lived short lives. They died from simple diseases. They fought wars over small patches of ground. Surely their world would be dirty and brutal. Instead, she found chaos. But it was a warm kind of chaos, full of noise and color and life. Marcus brought her to a house by the ocean, in a place called New Zealand. The house was small compared to the palace she had grown up in, but it was filled with light. Large windows looked out over blue water that moved constantly, waves rolling onto sandy shores. Keleth had never seen so much water in one place. "My family wants to meet you," Marcus said on their first day, "but only when you are ready." There's no rush. She was not ready. But 3 days later, she said yes anyway, because the loneliness was becoming too heavy. Marcus's family arrived like a storm. His mother was a small woman named Lynn, who immediately wrapped Keleth in a hug. Keleth froze. Valanthi did not touch each other like this. Physical contact was reserved for formal occasions and carefully controlled, but Lynn did not seem to notice her stiffness. She just held on, patting Keleth's back gently. "Welcome to the family, dear," she said. "You are too thin. I will make you food." Marcus's father David shook her hand warmly. His brother James made jokes she did not understand but smiled at anyway. His sister's daughter, a small girl named Mia, stared at Keleth with wide eyes. "Your skin is so pretty," Mia said, "like the moon." No one had ever called Keleth pretty before. Beautiful, sometimes in the cold way Valanthi described art or architecture. But pretty was a warm word, a human word, and it made her silver cheeks flush darker. The days that followed were strange and wonderful. Lynn taught Keleth to cook human food, standing beside her in the kitchen and guiding her hands. The touching never stopped. Humans touched constantly. They hugged when they arrived and hugged when they left. They put their hands on shoulders during conversations. They sat close together on furniture meant for fewer people. At first, Keleth flinched at every contact, but slowly she began to understand. The touching was not formal. It was not controlled. It was simply how humans showed love. And for the first time in her life, she was surrounded by love. Mia became her shadow. The little girl followed Keleth everywhere, asking endless questions about stars and spaceships and silver skin. One afternoon, she brought flowers from the garden and carefully braided them into Keleth's long silver hair. "Now you look like a fairy princess," Mia declared. Keleth looked at herself in the mirror. She looked ridiculous by Valanthi standards. Flowers did not belong in royal hair, but she found herself smiling anyway. As weeks passed, Keleth began to study humans more carefully. Her scientific training from the Valanthi Academy had taught her to observe and analyze. What she discovered amazed her. Human biology was extraordinary. Not elegant or refined like Valanthi genetics, but powerful in a different way. Their DNA was remarkably adaptable. It bonded easily with foreign genetic material. Their immune systems could recognize and fight millions of different threats. They healed from injuries that would kill other species. This adaptability came from their brutal evolutionary history. Earth was a harsh world. Plagues, radiation, ice ages, meteor strikes. Humans had survived everything their planet threw at them by becoming endlessly flexible. They absorbed, they adapted, they survived. The galaxy had looked at humans and seen only primitives. Keleth began to see survivors. She also began to see Marcus in a new way. He never pushed her for anything. Their marriage remained unconsummated because he refused to pressure her. When she asked why, he looked confused by the question. "You did not choose me," he said. "You were given to me like property. That is not okay. If we are ever together in that way, it will be because you want it, not because some contract says you must." This concept was foreign to Valanthi thinking. Marriages were political arrangements. Personal desire did not enter the equation. But Marcus genuinely cared about what she wanted. He asked her opinion on everything. He listened when she spoke. He remembered small details she mentioned and brought them up later. One evening, Keleth told him about her genetic defect. She explained the compatibility scores and the 0% and the humiliation. She had carried all her life. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then he shrugged. "My grandmother could not have children either," he said. "She adopted 4 kids and raised them all into good people. She always said that family is not about blood. It is about who you choose to love." Keleth thought about this for a long time. Chosen family. Love without genetics. These ideas went against everything she had been taught, but they felt true in a way her education never had. 3 months after arriving on Earth, Keleth collapsed on the beach during a morning walk. Marcus carried her to a human hospital, where doctors ran tests they did not fully understand on a patient they had never seen before. Her vital signs were strange. Her blood chemistry was shifting. They called in specialists from around the world. A xenobiologist named Dr. Sarah Okonkwo finally found an answer. She had studied alien physiology for 20 years and had never seen anything like this. "Commander Chen," she said slowly, her voice full of wonder. "I think her body is rewriting itself." Marcus gripped Keleth's hand. "Rewriting? What does that mean?" Dr. Okonkwo pointed to graphs on her screen. "Her hormonal patterns are changing. Her cellular structure is becoming more flexible. It is like her entire biology is adapting to a new environment." She paused, looking at Marcus with amazement in her eyes. "I think it is adapting to you." Keleth listened to these words from her hospital bed. She did not fully understand what they meant, but she felt the truth of them in her body. Something was different inside her. Something was waking up. That night, Marcus sat beside her bed and held her hand while she slept. She did not wake, but somehow she knew he was there. His warmth seeped through her silver skin. Her body continued its impossible transformation. She had come to Earth expecting nothing. She had found a family that touched and laughed and loved openly. She had found a man who treated her broken pieces like treasure, and now her body was responding in ways no Volanthi scientist could have predicted. The galaxy thought humans were primitive. The galaxy was very, very wrong. Keleth was only beginning to understand what humanity truly was, and what they could make possible for someone who had been told her entire life that she was worth nothing. Hope was not just an emotion anymore. It was becoming something physical, something real, growing inside her in ways she could not yet name. 1 year on, Earth changed everything. Keleth no longer walked through her days like a ghost. She laughed now, really laughed, the way humans did with their whole bodies. She cooked meals with Lynn and played games with Mia and sat on the beach watching waves with Marcus. As the sun went down, she and Marcus had fallen in love. Not because of politics or duty or an emperor's cruel joke. They had fallen in love through small moments. Morning coffee on the balcony. Late-night conversations about their dreams and fears. The way he always remembered that she liked her tea with honey. The way she learned to recognize his footsteps before he entered a room. Their marriage had become real in every way. Keleth had made that choice herself, just as Marcus had promised. And it was wonderful beyond anything she had imagined. Then came the morning that changed the fate of the galaxy. Keleth woke suddenly, her stomach churning. She barely made it to the bathroom before she was violently sick. This happened the next morning too. And the next, Marcus brought her back to the hospital. Worry, written across his face. Dr. Okonkwo ran new tests, her expression growing stranger with each result. Finally, she asked to speak with them both together. "I need you to prepare yourselves," Dr. Okonkwo said. "What I am about to tell you should be impossible." Keleth gripped Marcus's hand. After everything she'd experienced, she thought she was ready for anything. She was wrong. "Princess Keleth," Dr. Okonkwo said gently, "you are pregnant." The room went silent. Keleth could not breathe. She could not think. The word echoed in her head like a bell ringing in an empty temple. Pregnant, pregnant, pregnant. "That cannot be," she finally whispered. "I am zero compatible." Every geneticist in the Valenthea Empire confirmed it. "I cannot carry children. My body's not capable." Dr. Okonkwo smiled, and there were tears in her eyes. "Your body was not capable with Valenthi biology, but human biology is different. It adapted to you, and you adapted to it." She explained what her team had discovered. Human touch released chemicals called oxytocin and serotonin. Human food contained compounds that promoted cellular flexibility. The emotional bonding that humans practiced so naturally triggered cascades of hormones that the Valanthi had never studied. Keleth's genetic defect was not truly a defect at all. Her genes had been waiting for the right biological key. Her body needed a compatible partner who could trigger the dormant sequences in her DNA. No Valanthi male could do this, because they were too genetically similar. But humans, with their messy and adaptable and gloriously flexible biology, were different. Marcus was the key that unlocked her. She was carrying a child. A true child. A miracle. Marcus was crying now, something Keleth had never seen him do. She realized she was crying too, silver tears running down her cheeks. "Is the baby healthy?" Marcus asked. Dr. Okonkwo nodded. "As far as we can tell, yes. The child will be a true hybrid, part Valanthi, part human, the first of their kind." Word spread faster than anyone intended. A nurse told a friend. That friend told a journalist. Within a week, the news had traveled across the galaxy. The broken Valanthi princess, given to humans as an insult, was carrying an impossible child. The galactic response was immediate and explosive. Emperor Orath sent furious messages demanding his daughter's return. Suddenly, the worthless princess he had thrown away was the most valuable person in the empire. Her child represented genetic possibilities that Valanthi scientists had chased for centuries. He wanted her back. He wanted control of this miracle. Other species sent representatives to Earth, asking questions, demanding answers. The Vorlani, who faced their own fertility crisis. The Ketheric, who had lost 3 colony worlds to genetic diseases. The Maltheran, whose population had been declining for 500 years. If humans could help the infertile bear children, what else could they offer? Earth's politicians scrambled to respond. Humanity was still new to the galactic stage, still considered primitive and unimportant. Suddenly, every power in the galaxy was paying attention. Keleth watched all of this from her small house by the ocean. She had wanted to disappear into obscurity. Instead, she had become the center of a galactic storm. "I am sorry," she told Marcus one evening. "I have brought all this trouble to your world." He laughed softly and pulled her close. "You have brought a miracle to my world. Any trouble that comes with it is worth it." But the trouble was coming whether they wanted it or not. Valenthi warships appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system. 300 vessels. More military power than humanity had ever seen. Emperor Voroth sent a message to the United Earth Council. "Return my daughter and the child she carries. You have 1 day to comply. If you refuse, we will take them by force." The message played on every screen on Earth. People watched in fear. They had barely discovered faster-than-light travel. Their fleet was tiny. They had no way to fight an empire. Marcus stood before the United Earth Council that night. Admirals and presidents and diplomats filled the room, all looking for answers he was not sure he had. "She is not property," Marcus said, his voice steady despite his fear. "She is not a specimen. She is my wife. And our child is not a commodity to be fought over. They are family." An old admiral spoke up. "Commander Chen, we understand your feelings, but we cannot fight the Valanthi Empire. We would be destroyed in ours." Marcus nodded slowly. "I know. But I also know that if we surrender now, we tell the galaxy that humanity abandons its own. We tell them that we are weak and can be threatened into submission, and that will follow us forever." The council deliberated through the night. When morning came, they had reached a decision. Earth's fleet powered up. 47 ships against 300. It was hopeless odds by any calculation. But every ship had a full crew. Volunteers, all of them. Marcus went home to say goodbye to Keyleth. He found her standing on the balcony, watching the sky. "You are going to fight," she said. "It was not a question. I have to." She turned to face him. Her silver eyes were bright with tears, but also with something else. Something fierce. "Then I am coming with you." Marcus shook his head. "The baby, you need to stay safe." Keleth took his hands in hers. "I spent my whole life being kept safe while others decided my fate. I will not do that anymore. Whatever comes, we face it together." Marcus looked at his wife, this woman who had been called worthless and broken. He saw strength in her now that rivaled anyone he had ever known. Together, he agreed. As they walked to the shuttle that would take them to his ship, Keleth felt her daughter move inside her. A flutter of life, impossibly precious. She had been given to humanity as a joke. She had found love instead. And now she carried a miracle that the entire galaxy wanted to control. But Keleth was done being controlled. She was done being dismissed. Whatever happened next, she would face it as herself. Not as a broken princess or a political gift. As Keleth Chen, wife and mother and survivor, the stars waited above. The Valanthi fleet waited beyond. And humanity stood ready to show the galaxy what they truly were. The command deck of the human flagship was quiet with tension. Captain Sarah Okonkwo, who had traded her scientist's coat for an admiral's uniform, stood at the center. Around her, 47 ships waited in formation. Beyond them, 300 Valanthi warships filled the darkness of space like silver wolves circling their prey. Keleth stood beside Marcus, watching the tactical display. Every red dot represented a ship that could destroy them. Every green dot represented hope that seemed too small to matter. Transmission from the Valanthi flagship, a communications officer announced. Emperor Voroth's face filled the main screen. He looked older than Keleth remembered, but his eyes were still cold. He sat on a throne even now, even in space, surrounded by advisors who whispered and schemed. "Now this is your final warning," the Emperor said. "Return my daughter, return the child, or face destruction." Captain Okonkwo stepped forward. Princess Keleth is a citizen of Earth now. Your granddaughter will be born free. We will not hand over our people as property. The Emperor's expression flickered with something that might have been surprise. He had expected fear. He had expected surrender. Human defiance confused him. We cannot win this battle, he said. No, Okonkwo agreed. But we can make it costly. And the entire Galactic Concord is watching. Every species will see how the mighty Valanthi Empire responds to a request for mercy. This was true. Thousands of observation drones from dozens of species floated at safe distances, recording everything. The news feeds of 100 worlds were fixed on this moment. The galaxy held its breath. Emperor Voreth signaled for his weapons to power up. 300 ships began charging their cannons. The humans had perhaps 10 minutes left to exist. Then a second transmission cut through. A new face appeared on screen, splitting the display in two. Crown Princess Velith, Keleth's eldest sister, spoke from somewhere hidden. Father, stop. The Emperor's head snapped toward his daughter's image. Velith, what is the meaning of this? The meaning is that you are about to destroy the only hope our species has. Velith's voice was calm but carried an edge of desperation. Did you think Keleth was the only one? Keleth stared at her sister's face. They had never been close. Velith was the perfect princess, the heir who would one day rule. She had never spoken to her broken younger sister, except when required by protocol. The same genetic anomaly runs in our bloodline, Velith continued. It runs through half the noble houses of the Empire. Our fertility rates have been declining for centuries. We have been hiding it, covering it up, pretending everything is fine. But it is not fine. We are dying. Erupted in the Valanthi command ship. The Emperor raised a hand for silence. Should not be speaking of this publicly, he growled. I should have spoken of this years ago, Velith replied. Instead, we threw Keleth away like garbage. And she found a cure that we were too proud to seek. Human biology is not primitive, Father. It is compatible. It is adaptable. It could save us all. Messages began flooding in from across Valanthi space. Noble houses demanding information. Scientists requesting data. Mothers and fathers who had watched their children fail to produce grandchildren, suddenly seeing hope where there had been none. And then messages came from other species. 2. The Vorlani ambassador spoke of their world, where only 1 in 10 couples could bear children. The Ketheric delegate described genetic diseases that were slowly erasing their population. The Malthuran leader, ancient and weary, talked about watching his species fade toward extinction. Every one of them asked the same question. Could humans help? Keleth understood then what was really happening. This was not just about her or her child. This was about the galaxy realizing that humanity had something precious to offer. Not weapons. Not conquest. Something better: connection, adaptability. Hope Captain Okonkwo saw the opportunity and seized it. Voreth, she said, her voice carrying across every broadcast. Humanity proposes a treaty. We will share our research into human-alien biological compatibility, not as a product to be sold, as medicine to be given, as healing offered freely to any species who needs it. She paused, letting her words sink in. In exchange, the Valanthi Empire will recognize human sovereignty. You will return all people who were given to humanity as diplomatic gifts or insults, so they may choose their own futures. And you will treat humanity as equals in the Galactic Concord. You dare to make demands? The Emperor snarled. Dare to offer a choice, Okonkwo replied. War means destruction. Your fleet will crush us today. But tomorrow, every species in the galaxy will remember that you chose violence over healing. You will be remembered as the Emperor who burned hope to ash. She continued, you can accept our offer. Your granddaughter will be born in peace. Your species will survive. And the galaxy will remember that the Valanthi Empire was wise enough to recognize a gift when they received one. The Emperor's face was unreadable. Keleth knew her father well enough to see the war inside him. His pride demanded conquest. His duty demanded survival of his people. These two forces clashed behind his cold eyes. Long minutes passed. Ships held their positions. Weapons remained charged. The galaxy waited. Then Keleth did something unexpected. She stepped forward and activated a personal broadcast to every ship, every screen, every watching drone. "I am Princess Keleth Sirith of the Valanthi Empire," she said. "I was given away because I was considered worthless, broken, defective. My own people laughed at me." She placed a hand on her swelling belly. "But I was not broken. I was just waiting for someone who could see past my flaws. Humanity gave me that. They gave me love and family and hope. And now I carry a miracle inside me." Her voice grew stronger. "This child will not be Valanthi. She will not be human. She will be both. She will be something new, something the galaxy has never seen. She is proof that our differences do not have to divide us. That connection is possible across the stars." Keleth looked directly into the camera, knowing her father was watching. "Father, I know you think I am still your property, your political tool. But I am not. I am a woman who has found her own worth. And I am asking you, not as your daughter, but as a voice for the future. Please, choose hope. Choose life. Choose to let us heal instead of hurt." The silence that followed was absolute. Then, slowly, Emperor Vorith raised his hand. The weapons on 300 ships powered down. "A treaty," he said, each word seemingly painful to speak. "We will discuss terms." Keleth felt her legs go weak. Marcus caught her, holding her steady. On the bridge around them, human officers were crying and embracing. The impossible had happened. 47 ships had faced an empire and survived through nothing but courage and compassion. In the hours that followed, diplomats began the complicated work of turning words into binding agreements. There would be months of negotiations ahead, careful scientific protocols to establish, trust to build on both sides. But the first step had been taken. Keleth returned to Earth that night. She stood on the beach behind her house, watching the stars she had once called home. The ocean whispered its endless song beside her. Marcus found her there, as he always did. "You saved us today," he said. She shook her head. "We saved each other. That is what humans taught me. No one has to face their battles alone." He wrapped his arms around her from behind, hands resting gently on her belly. Beneath his palms their daughter moved, a flutter of impossible life. "What should we name her?" Marcus asked. Keleth considered this. A Valanthi name? A human name? Both felt incomplete. "Lyra," she finally said. "It is a human constellation. A string instrument that makes beautiful music. And in old Valanthi poetry, it is the word for bridge. A connection between two places." Marcus smiled against her hair. "Lyra Chensirith. I like it." Above them the stars glittered with promise. The galaxy was still vast and dangerous and full of old hatreds. But something had shifted today. Humanity had shown what they truly were. Not warriors or conquerors, but healers and bridge builders. And Keleth, the broken princess nobody wanted, had helped show them the way. Lyra Chensirith entered the world on a spring morning. With Earth's sun streaming through hospital windows and her parents holding hands beside her, she was small and perfect. Her skin was a pale silver that caught the light like her mother's, but warmer, touched with hints of her father's brown tones. Her eyes, when she finally opened them, were dark like Marcus's, but flecked with silver starlight. The doctors had not known what to expect. No human Valanthi child had ever existed before. They had prepared for complications, for difficulties, for the unknown. Instead, they found a healthy baby girl with strong lungs and a powerful cry. Keleth held her daughter and wept. These were not the silver tears of Valanthi's sorrow that she had known all her life. These were warm human tears of overwhelming joy. "She is here," Keleth whispered. "She is real." Marcus leaned down to kiss both of them, his wife and his impossible daughter. "She is perfect." Word spread across the galaxy within hours. The first hybrid child had been born. The miracle was real in the year that followed. Earth transformed. The Treaty of Soul had opened doors that no one had imagined. Valanthi scientists arrived to study human biology. Human doctors traveled to Valanthi research stations. Together, they began to unlock the secrets that Keleth's pregnancy had revealed. Human biology was not just adaptable for reproduction. The same flexibility that allowed Marcus and Keleth to have a child could also help species fighting genetic diseases. Human immune responses could be modified to create new treatments. Human cellular regeneration offered insights into healing that the galaxy had never discovered. Earth became a destination, not for invasion or exploitation, but for hope. Other Valanthi nobles came first. The sisters and cousins who shared Keleth's genetic markers. The ones who had been quietly told they could never bear children. They came to Earth with their partners, willing to try what the Empire had said was impossible. Within 3 years, Lyra had playmates. Silver-skinned children with human eyes, brown-skinned children with Valanthic grace. Each one a miracle. Each one proof that connection could triumph over biology. Then came other species. The Vorlani sent couples who had tried for decades to conceive. Human doctors studied their biology, found the places where adaptation could occur, and helped them find their own paths to parenthood. The Ketheric brought samples of diseased genetic material, and human researchers worked to find treatments that their own science had missed. Not every attempt succeeded. Human biology was remarkable, but it was not magic. Some species were too different, some problems too deep. But for many, Earth offered what they had lost: hope. Humanity's place in the galaxy shifted. They were no longer the primitive newcomers to be mocked and dismissed. They became known as the species that helped, the ones who healed, the bridge builders between worlds. When Lyra was 5 years old, Keleth received a message from Valanthi Prime. Her father was ill. The years had caught up with Emperor Vorath. He was not expected to survive the season. He was asking to see his granddaughter. Keleth did not know how to feel. This man had thrown her away. He had tried to use her as a weapon. But he was also her father, and he was dying. She talked to Marcus late into the night. "I do not want to go back," she admitted. "That place holds only painful memories." Marcus took her hand. "You don't have to go. No one would blame you. But Lyra should know where she comes from. Both halves of her heritage. If I hide her from the Valanthi, am I not doing what they did to me? Telling her that part of herself is shameful?" She thought of her daughter, who ran through the garden with her cousins and spoke both human languages and Valanthi with equal ease. Lyra was a child of 2 worlds. She deserved to know them both. "We will go together," Keleth decided. "All of us." The return to Valanthi Prime was nothing like Keleth's departure. When she had left, she was invisible cargo on a small transport shipped away without ceremony. When she returned, her ship was escorted by an honor guard. Crowds gathered to watch them land. News drones broadcast every moment across 40 star systems. The broken princess had returned, and she was no longer broken. Emperor Vorath received them in his private chambers, not the grand throne room. He was thin and frail, propped up in a medical bed. His silver skin had gone dull. His eyes were tired, but when he saw Lyra, those eyes lit up with something Keleth had never seen in them before. Wonder, pure. Simple wonder. "Come here, child," he said, his voice weak but gentle. Lyra looked at her mother, who nodded. The girl approached the bed without fear. She had inherited her mother's dignity and her father's quiet confidence. "You are my grandfather," Lyra said. It was not a question. "I am." "Mama told me you were not always kind to her." Vorath closed his eyes briefly. "Your mother speaks the truth. I was cruel. I was wrong. Why?" Such a simple question. Such a difficult answer. The old emperor struggled for words. "I was afraid," he finally said. "I was afraid that difference meant weakness. That anything imperfect should be hidden or discarded. I ruled an empire, but I did not understand the simplest truths." He reached out a trembling hand. Lyra took it without hesitation. "You are beautiful," Vorath whispered. "You are everything I was too blind to see. Your mother is stronger than I ever was?" I wasted decades looking for flawless heirs when I had the best daughter all along. Keleth felt tears on her cheeks. She had waited her whole life for words like these. They had come too late for the child she had been, but they were not too late for the mother she had become. She stepped forward and took her father's other hand. "I forgive you," she said. Voreth looked at her with shock that faded slowly into gratitude. "I do not deserve it." Forgiveness is not about deserving. Humans taught me that. It is about letting go of pain so you can hold on to something better. Emperor Voreth died 3 days later, with his daughter and granddaughter at his side. Crown Princess Veleth took the throne. Her first act was to name Keleth as ambassador to Earth, officially recognizing the bond between their peoples. Years passed, and Lyra grew. She had her mother's grace and her father's determination. She studied diplomacy and biology, learning to be a bridge in every sense. At 15, she spoke 6 languages. At 18, she negotiated her first trade agreement between human and Velanthi corporations. At 25, she stood before the Galactic Concord as its youngest ambassador ever. Keleth watched from the audience, her hair now streaked with white. Beside her, Marcus sat with the easy posture of a man who had lived a good life. His hands found hers, as they always did. Lyra addressed the assembly of 100 species. "I stand before you as an impossibility made real," she said. "My existence was called a miracle, but I do not believe in miracles. I believe in choices. My parents chose love over hatred. My grandmother chose forgiveness over vengeance. Humanity chose healing over conquest." She looked out at the sea of alien faces. "Every one of you came from choices. Every peace and every war. Every discovery and every closed door. We are not bound by our biology or our history. We are shaped by what we decide to do next." The applause that followed shook the great hall. Later that evening, Lyra found her parents in the garden outside the Concord building. Earth plants grew here now, brought across the stars to remind everyone of the small blue world that had changed everything. "You were wonderful," Keleth told her daughter. Lyra smiled. "I learned from the best." Marcus looked at his wife and child, surrounded by the flowers of 2 worlds. Somewhere above them, ships from 100 species traveled between stars. Somewhere in hospitals across the galaxy, doctors used human knowledge to heal what had seemed unhealable. Somewhere, children who should never have existed were laughing and playing and proving that connection was always possible.
Ow.
"They gave you to me as a joke," he said softly to Keleth. She laughed, that beautiful sound he had come to love so deeply. "And I returned with a galaxy." The stars wheeled overhead, ancient and endless. The universe was still vast and dangerous and full of unknowns, but it was also full of possibilities now. Bridges built where walls had stood. Connections forged where there had been only distance. Humanity had earned its place not through might but through kindness. And a princess who had been thrown away like trash had helped show them the way. Keleth leaned into her husband's embrace and watched their daughter stand tall. Under alien stars, she had once believed she was worth nothing. Now she knew the truth. Love had proven them all wrong. And that was the greatest miracle of all.